Before we start today's show, Jake's back with some news.
After the roaring success of our first ever live show last week, we're going to be doing it again this week. It's on Friday. We're going to do a show before the Forest game and a show after the Forest game. Join us live on Friday night. Can't wait to see you there.
Thank you, Jake. Right, coming up on today's show, we look back on a win after 44 days without a win. Finally get 3 points against Newcastle. And we look ahead to the Forest game with Daniel Taylor from The Athletic. Welcome to another episode of An Echo of Glory. I'm Johnny Blaine. Joining me, Gary Diamond.
Are you sure, Johnny? Are you sure?
It's because this is take 12.
It's literally you managed to do it live on Friday morning.
Yeah,
Been
good,
sat here
wasn't
for
it?
5 minutes with you going, welcome to another episode of An Echo of Glory. Who am I?
Would you sit here?
No.
Okay, shush.
Wow, the curtain's been pulled down, hasn't it?
Blimey.
And delighted to be joined by Jake Robson.
Good afternoon.
It is now.
That's how you Very good. Okay, how many showers this weekend?
Bloody hell,
It doesn't
straight
count.
in.
I have a shower every morning. That's
Okay.
about. I'm a normal person. I had one on the way to the game,
Yeah.
but that was inadvertent.
What, at where? Tube station?
Absolutely.
Oh, right,
Like
okay.
walking down to the station,
see.
got absolutely
So-
peed on. And then one of them cars drove past me. Obviously, one of them cars, but it went right through a puddle which I hadn't seen, and I hadn't been out my house 5 minutes, and the whole side of my leg was soaking. I was thinking to myself, if we lose today, I'm gonna be really pissed off. But it got better from there.
Okay. A normal amount of showers. I had 3 this weekend, 2 on Sunday. Not quite last week's 3, but
Yeah, I know, because you told me about one of them. You texted me at the time.
When he was
Just
in
got
the
out
shower.
the shower.
I didn't tell you I was. Well, no, I didn't.
It was weird. Don't do it again.
All right. Okay, fine. But I just like to let everyone know that I'm clean.
Oh no, I get it. It was like podcast related.
It was podcast
Echo
related.
of Glory related information
Yeah.
about your showers.
Yeah.
But you only did 2.
All right.
So,
All right.
well, what were they? What were they?
Sunday morning, I was out and got absolutely soaked. Decided to have another one, and then
where were you? We're just doing your shopping.
yeah, and then I just had another one. I can't remember. Right, come on, let's get on to the
I
football.
think we should.
Club news. The under 18s, the 21s, the women, the back. Everyone's playing. The under 18s won 3-1 at Fulham to remain top of the league. So the 18s won at Fulham to remain top of the league. The 21s won at Sunderland last night in the League Cup. They've topped their group. They are through. But unfortunately, the women, I'm not going to say they let the club down.
They're on a bit of a bad run.
On a bit of a bad run, and that's probably because of the expansive football that they're playing. On the back of the 7-0 defeat to City, they lost 4-0 at home to Man United, and they had a lot of attempts. I looked at the stats. Certainly up until half-time, they'd had a lot of shots, all on target. It just didn't fall for them. But because they're playing this open, expansive football, United picked them off, lost 4-0, which okay. They've got 2 comfortable games coming up. They play Arsenal twice next week. Arsenal, who are on an absolute roll, smashing Chelsea 4-1 on Sunday.
Arsenal are pretty good.
Yeah, they are pretty good. But Spurs, as we've said before, you said, they're still finding a new way under a new manager. Other bits of club news this week, reports of a new deal for Destiny Udogie.
Much deserved.
Much deserved.
What a guy.
Until his current deal's until 2027, so they'll probably extend that, and he'll get a nice little bump up in his pay packet.
Little Christmas sweetener.
Can we put it on a Chelsea style, like 10 years or something?
Yeah, well, maybe.
We should.
It's amazing that it's been leaked for a few days now, and the club still haven't announced it. But maybe the pen's not quite dry.
Ink.
Ink. Maybe the pen wasn't dry.
You don't want the pen to be dry because then.
Okay, the ink. And so I was thinking about who I want next. Maybe I think Sarr. There's rumours that he's on sort of a quite.
You'd have thought
it's
so,
not money comparable to what he probably should be on. I think he's someone else we need to tie down.
100%. I know Van der Ven only signed in the summer, but he can stay forever. Similarly, Porro. 100%. Porro, what a footballer he is.
I think he's probably on a pretty good
He'll
contract.
be on a bit better because
He'll be on a good contract.
Just them players that I want to see as being the backbone of the team for, you know.
But I think probably Sarr is probably due. It is due a new contract. And another bit of club news, not as positive, is that Jurgen Klinsmann, I thought was a friend of this club, but clearly not. Says Son will go.
Just the name Klinsmann is positive to me.
Yeah, but he's played Son in these games. Are we like, can you take him off now? He's clearly limping. He keeps him on. And I know Son is the star of South Korean football, but it sounds like he could be gone for 6 weeks going after the Bournemouth game on New Year's Eve.
I just was reading literally as we came on, I think there was a post from Eddie Gold saying that the club is still in discussions with the South Korea Football Association. So I think they want him to stay for the Burnley game, but we shall see.
surely it could be up to 6 weeks. That's correct.
Yeah,
isn't it?
looking at their group,
They'll go far.
Bahrain, Jordan, and someone else. They'll go pretty far. They should do. I think not guaranteed to win it, but you definitely see them getting to the last 8, probably the last 4. Like him to be here for Burnley. It's important that we get through that game. It's nice to have a home draw, but it's not a guarantee. You'd want him here.
Let him go
No.
for Burnley. Like, it's the FA Cup game against Burnley. They're going to make a whole. I expect us to win, but I think we'll be able to do it without Son. That's all.
No, I'm going to bookmark this conversation.
yeah. I mean, because Burnley have got bigger fish to fry than the FA Cup. Their number one goal this season is to stay in the Premier League.
There's also a gap after that between the next game. I don't know. You'd like to think we'll beat Burnley, but we'll come to that game as and when. Should we talk about Sunday?
Yes.
Okay, let's do it. So the lineup was Vicario in goal, back 4, Porro, Romero. We'll come to him shortly. Davies and Udogie in midfield, Sarr and Basuma, and then we had Johnson on the right, Kulusevski in the middle, Son on the left, and Richarlison up front. So a couple of personnel changes, but also a tweak with the players moving around. How did you see it when you saw the lineup? It kind of felt, okay, actually, some players are back now. This is nice.
Well, I think the thing that it was more not when the team was announced, because as long as Sarr was going to be fit and Richarlison was going to be fit, those were the 11 I think that anybody would have started. But actually, when they lined up and you saw Son on the left and Richarlison through the middle, that to me was the key thing.
Did you think at the time it wouldn't be?
Yeah, I thought when it was announced, I imagined that Son would stay up front and Richarlison was on the left, but it was a move.
Me too, exactly the same.
Yeah, that's what I assumed. But it was absolutely the right thing to put Son up against Trippier and use his pace, and so it proved. But it was pleasing to see Richarlison in the middle having a good game, and it shows that with a bit of supply to him, he'll get in the box and he'll get you a couple of goals. And the last thing I was pleased about with it was this is not your number 9 shirt, Sonny. You need to produce, and if you're not, then actually we will move it around based on the game, based on whatever it is. So I thought that was the most pleasing thing about the lineup.
Yeah, same. Well, I wasn't sure about how it would play out until I was about 5-10 minutes into the game, and then you're seeing, actually Son's going to be out on the left.
Yeah, but once the game sort of kicked off and you saw Son was out on the left, and you're seeing Trippier, you're like, why did? I mean, I probably did think of that, but I just didn't think it would happen. But Son against Trippier is who's going to face him up 1-on-1. It's not even as though they're going to sit deep and double up. Trippier was literally left with Son 1-on-1.
They didn't double up, did they?
Not one bit. Not one
bizarre.
bit. They did not double up at all.
Mm.
Trippier, it was Son on Trippier, 1-on-1 every single time.
Yeah.
And this is no disrespect to Trippier. You put Son 1-on-1 with any fullback, not in a sprint from the halfway line, but just squaring him up on the edge of the box and then going outside him. He's going to beat most fullbacks, but Trippier in particular can't move his feet and hasn't got that pace. He was going to get killed.
The other thing is, I actually think, obviously, having Johnson out on the right was quite a positive thing to see, because we were saying in our
when you
pod
saw the
before
lineup,
game,
Johnson had to be on the right. That was
no, absolutely. But I was happy with that, because we've been saying he hasn't actually been given a proper go in
100%.
probably what is his best position up until this point. Certainly not from the start. And I personally, when the game kicked off and I saw that actually Son was out on the left, I personally think Son's best position is out on the left. I know he can play as a 9. I just think all the years that he's been at Tottenham, more often than not, he started on the left, and that's where he's been successful. I also think Richarlison, probably his best position is through the middle.
He's a 9.
If you can get the ball
he's
to him.
Nothing else. He needs to stand, I said this before, in the middle of the goal, in between the posts, and be a bit of an agent of chaos. And obviously he goes around and he worked hard, and his first goal came from him winning the ball back. But as a striker, people go, he's Brazil's number 9, and you think in your head, it means he must have a bit of flair. No, he doesn't. He's not, for me, technically good enough to be out and around, holding the ball up, flicking balls in. They said on the commentary,
he's good in the air as well.
He's good in the air.
Apart from the miss against West Ham, but
he's missed a few of those. There was a great move in the first half where he got played into Son and played a lovely flick into Kulusevski. Kulusevski played into Richarlison, who put it over. Maybe in the first 15 minutes, Gary Neville, and I agree, said Richarlison can't do what Son just did. He's not as deft on the ball. Son's not the best at that. Richarlison, for me, is an agent of chaos in the box. But anyway, so we go 1-0 up for...
But again, first 5 minutes, we were relentless.
But we could have been 1-0 down.
That's
like
true.
Against
But
Villa.
that was about 6 or 7 minutes in.
Yeah.
I must remember thinking that first 5 minutes, we are just watching us in the flesh.
Great.
Is just. Ugh.
What about that Ben Davies touch? I didn't see that from where. I mean, I had a great. View
I
of
didn't see it.
I'm in the southwest corner. I had a great view of it. Didn't know that he touched it. I thought Almiron just missed it.
It was Isak. Wasn't
Sorry, Isak.
I don't care. I still think it's one of the worst misses ever.
No, I don't.
No, once he touches
it,
it's so
you're
hard.
not a centre forward, are you, Jake?
It's so hard. Once
I've got high
touches
standards,
it-
Johnny. Harry Kane scoring that.
No,
I don't
I'm
think
not
you
sure.
can. Once,
I'm not sure.
once he touches it,
At that pace as well, it was a great touch. I mean,
Fantastic touch.
saw an interview with Davies after the game, and he said it's one of them balls that as a defender you hate to defend, but you have no option because you know the man's behind you and he's got a tap in, so you have to try and defend it. And you just got to pray that you're not putting it through your own net.
and Isak's face was a picture because he was like, "How on earth?" No, I don't think it was how on earth have I missed that. It was actually how on earth has he got a touch?
Yeah, and it was a brilliant piece of defending. But I'm going to sort of pick up on what you said about, again, we could have been 1 down, we conceded chances. I think you've just got to accept this, right? That it's the way that we're going to play. We are going to concede chances. And even, I think the very best teams, City, will concede chances. You're playing in the Premier League.
Especially in the
Every
break.
team has a certain element of quality. Over the course of 90 minutes, it is very unusual for a team to not create a chance, have a shot on goal, have a good goal-scoring opportunity. It's about how you defend them. And the reality is, Davies was there. So it ended up not being a chance because he was there and did his job.
Yeah.
But I don't mind conceding them because, as I say, whatever the status of the game, and until we're sort of 2 or 3 up, I think the game's in the balance. And I think a team will go 1 up against us. I'm not going to be concerned. I'm not going to panic because we will score.
It's been a long time since that happened. We went 1-0 up on Sunday. That's the 10th game in a row.
Is it 10?
We've gone 1-0. There's been a lot of talk of these 5 because we didn't win them.
yeah.
But actually, it goes back to Arsenal.
Wow.
Arsenal was the last time we didn't
went
score
1-0
first. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time since we had that feeling of, right, what happens when we go 1-0 down? And I think it was Ali said last week, before Sunday, he didn't have faith in this team to possibly get back in games. But we went 1-0 up. Was there in your head, here we go again, we have to go and get the second? And we did go and get the second this time.
No, you always want to get. I always fancy to get the second, especially if you're going to go 1-0 up that early. But doggy. I mean, firstly, we've said it sort of before. How does the left back end up in the 6-yard box, in the middle of the 6-yard box this time? Ben Davies scored that goal against United, second game of the season, and he's just running a straight line and he's ended up on the corner. But the doggy not only is on the ball for a left back. Name me in Premier League history what a player on the ball. I mean, I just can't think of any off the top of my head to be put down as a left back on the team sheet, but be that confident on the ball, want the ball that much, be able to then pick the pass off that you need to, and then get in the position to score as well.
He was playing as a centre forward at times,
The
not
guy
just for that goal.
absolutely
There were times in the second
blows
half,
my mind.
first half, he was playing centre
Well,
forward.
he went clear through against Villa in the first few minutes and should have scored.
See, now that I think is more of a problem, because I think if you stick him almost one-on-one like a striker...
He's not a striker.
He's not a striker.
No, I get
but what he
that.
can do, or has been
instinctive
coached to do,
finish.
instinctive finish,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
also
yeah.
know when to make that run, which part of the box to be in. I mean, Ange must have coached that into him. He can't have just had that.
I'm pleased you
of
said that,
course.
because I was going to say it's an interesting conversation that at the beginning of the season we were all very worried that we'd sign this guy Udogie, who's a specialist left wing back, and we've got this guy Porro, who's a specialist right wing back, and we're all going, oh God, this is a real problem for us. The one person it seems that wasn't saying that was Ange, because I realise now with the benefit of hindsight, he would have looked at it and gone, it wouldn't have mattered if they were traditional fullbacks. You could be a traditional fullback or a traditional wing back. It wouldn't matter. You're learning to play a new position regardless. So what matters is, do they have the technical capability and the athleticism and the football brain to be able to play it? And if they do, then I'm going to coach that. And it's clearly he has coached them into these new positions. And Porro's spoken about it a lot recently as well, about the fact that it is a new position. He's having to learn how to play in the middle and inside a little bit more. But whereas we, with our sort of, narrow vision of football comparatively, just like, oh my God, I don't play that position. Ange's looked at it and gone, well, no one does, mate. So I've got to coach it anyway. It makes no difference what they are. They need to learn.
That is actually why at the beginning of the season people were saying for an Ange system we need to sign new fullbacks. I remember saying
He's ended up with the ideal players.
apart from John Stones, or maybe I don't know who actually is a fullback that can do that. So you've just got to have the raw materials.
I don't want to
basically.
big them up too much, but Zinchenko
Yeah,
has done a good job.
Zinchenko's
So that's-
very good.
okay, so
But he
that's-
learned that
so
at City.
there you go.
He got
Right.
coached that at City,
Yeah.
right? Very,
So
very
you can
much.
name two.
So-
I mean,
There was a tweet this week, and I'm going to bring up the name Antonio Conte. Someone,
he doesn't tweet.
someone,
I just got a shiver down my spine.
someone said that we were all. This guy loves Ange, but we were all too hasty to criticise Conte because he had the World Cup and we had injuries and he had his illnesses and this, that, and the other. If you put Conte in charge of this team, he'd be given a clean sweep and saying, right, go on, Antonio, coach this team. Not a chance would Porro and Udogie probably be playing, would possibly
as
not
they
even be in this team because he didn't seem to like Porro. No way would he be able to coach them this way.
The biggest problem with Conte was and always will be his attitude, because he probably could have coached these players, but he'd still be sounding off about
Imagine
Kane.
the injuries now.
Yeah, he'd
under
be sounding
Conte.
off about Kane, he'd be sounding off about this, sounding off about that. Do the players have the attitude? It's not my fault, it's their fault. All of the last 5 games, well, I told them what to do, they didn't do it. Like, it was always negativity with him that permeated through the team, the fans, the stadium. So it doesn't really matter.
Feel the positivity now comparatively.
It doesn't matter what he could or could not have coached.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I don't think Udogie and Porro would be having the output that they are right now under Conte. But regardless, it's about the whole feel, the style of football. And more importantly than all of that is looking ahead at the future. The last 5 games have been tolerable for all of us. Disappointing in results, but tolerable, because we're all saying it is part of where we are going, what we're trying to do. We understand the mitigating circumstances with injuries and suspensions, but still the football is good. Still we should have won most of these games. And still that future road is looking really bright. Under Conte, it was like, well, when's he going to sack it off and just go? Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's irrelevant. It's not a binary question of could he have coached this.
So Udogie gets his first goal for the club, and then about 5:10 on Sunday the 10th of December, something happened for the very first time. What was it?
It was Richie scoring with his feet.
Yeah.
Not us going 2 up.
No, not us going to Richarlison scoring with his feet, and Son rinsed Trippier again. It made me realise or remember what a bad one-on-one fullback Trippier was. You're right.
But he is still one of the best fullbacks in the league, right?
Yeah, I
you
think
have to
I'm
say that.
I watched the Newcastle
And
fan.
Son's done him there properly.
Yeah, he has. And I watched the Newcastle fan vlog, and they were criticising Trippier on that he's had a bad week, wondering whether is he just a player that plays on passion. And once he's I don't know. Like, he's good. He's a tough player. Closes down well, but once you
And he's
have
good
a
going forward.
and his set piece is great.
Yeah.
Once you have a run on him, I'm not sure. And Son,
I think he's
showed him
a
up.
player that has made the absolute most of
what he
everything
has.
that he's got,
Yeah.
and you've got to have the utmost respect for a
I
guy like that.
absolutely
And he's
do.
a proper professional. So, but regardless of how well he's done at Atletico Madrid and Newcastle, I don't think it was ever the wrong decision to sell him, because where we would like to go, I don't think you can get to with a player that has the limitations of Trippier.
yeah. So Son rinsed him,
Son rinsed
pulls it back. Charles a nice little drop into the pocket, and it's 2-0. And like you said, obviously we're 2-0 up, but even at half time when we were 1-1 against Villa or struggling against West Ham, we weren't struggling against West Ham, but it wasn't great. There was no booing. Someone said something. I said something on Twitter, and people thought I was ready to boo the team. Absolute nonsense. I thought at the full time against West Ham, I heard a couple of things. I'm told it didn't happen. There's nothing but positive. They got a standing ovation against Newcastle. Like, it was almost if it was full time at half time, because people were so happy with the way we were playing. But the question was, can Eddie Howe change it? Can Newcastle, who I think looked out on their feet from about 20 minutes?
Oh, we played them at a great time.
Yeah, we played them at a great time. Can they change it? They got into the game a little bit in the first 10 minutes of the second half. We were a little bit sloppy. But then, round about the hour mark, Porro hits this most beautiful Glenn Hoddle type pass.
I was David Beckham.
I wanted to go with a Spurs
for
player.
people in my era.
Okay. Michael Carrick.
Michael Carrick.
Over the top. And actually, Richie's first touch wasn't great. But actually, not having a great first touch in that instance made it easier for him. I don't know where Dubravka was going. He was going walkies.
Or maybe the bad touch kind of drew him out a bit.
He was already out.
Yeah.
I actually thought when I saw the ball, I thought Richie could have nodded it over him.
I thought if he took a good touch on it, then Dubravka's positioning was actually okay, and he would have. Richie either would have scored or got a penalty, or he would have saved it. Like, one of them 3 things are happening. But the bad touch took Dubravka out the game.
Yeah, and 3-0, thank you very much. And at that point, even pessimists over here, game over.
And then I think there was a moment after that when Richie got on the ball, or he was somebody tried to play him through, and suddenly the crowd are all up, and it's like, oh my God, he's gone from scoring no goals, he's now on a hat trick, and it's just like, what a turnaround.
But just on this, it's important to note that his first goal, he won the ball back almost on the halfway line with a great tackle, and he set that move in motion. So he was really working for the team and leading from the front, and we've given him a lot of criticism over the last few weeks and whatever. And is he ultimately good enough for Tottenham? I don't think so, but credit where it's due. He won that ball back. He got us going for his first goal. Yeah. And he deserved the bit of luck in the ball dropping to him that he got.
Scored as many goals on Sunday in the Premier League as he had in his previous 39 for Tottenham.
The one thing I'll say about this, Gary, is that in Ange's press conference on Friday about how he's been before, Richie's been before, and how he could be going forward, I wrote it down because I only wrote it down after...
You were in the press conference.
I was there, but I wrote it down after he scored the 2 goals, because I thought, well, actually... He said this, and at the time I thought, well, he's just saying it to pump the guy's tyres up a bit. Let's see what happens. But then he scores 2 goals. You're thinking, he actually says he looks a lot freer and better physically than he did earlier on in the season. Looks like the intervention in terms of medical intervention has been positive for him. So whatever, because he said he had a
groin.
Hip issue.
Something
groin.
that he said he needed to go away and he needed to get fixed. So obviously Ange has seen that perhaps whatever that was holding him back.
But Richarlison said himself, I was reading something that he said that he's now striking the ball without fear, whereas before this surgery, every time he shot, he couldn't shoot properly because he was scared because of the pain and it wasn't quite right. So
if you drop off in the Premier League because you can't do anything, you're not going to achieve. But I'm not saying he has to go on a scoring run now. He has to go on a run of good performances because the jury's very much still out on him as a 9 for Tottenham.
Maybe his physical condition is going to improve that. I actually also thought. Do you remember Richarlison came out and said he'd been struggling a bit mentally as well?
Yeah.
And Ange corrected himself because he said intervention, and then he said in terms of medical intervention. So you wonder if perhaps he's had some help on that side of things.
I believe he has,
and maybe that's kind of coming to the fore as well.
Look, the jury's still out for me, but nobody would
get it back in.
No, look, nobody.
Let's take a look at it like this, right? Richarlison, since he has come, has clearly not been at 100%, and he knows that, and he's lacked in confidence, and he's had issues, injury, and mentally. If now he is saying that he's 100%,
let's see it
physically and mentally, then essentially have we got, to all intents and purposes, a new player on our hands,
well, at least
and we'll see how he goes.
Yeah.
We've got to treat it like that, right?
So we're 3-0 up, we're cruising. Let's just get to the final whistle, lads. No issues. Enter Christian Romero. What has he learnt? Well, the very quick answer is no. I couldn't quite see from where I was what he'd done, and my phone starts pinging, and people watching it, guys I know that are working on the game, he's going, he's off, what an idiot, he's going. Man United fans, I don't often speak to. Chelsea fans messaging me going, what's this bloke doing? What an idiot, he's going. So you sit there going, he's going to get sent off. Somehow he didn't. You watch it back, yeah, he probably should have been sent off. He's now on 4 yellows. He shouldn't even be getting...
The yellow against West Ham was a joke.
Fine, but he's on, it's done, he's booked. He goes into that game on 3 yellows. He shouldn't come out of that game with 4 yellows, let alone the potential for a 4-game ban, which it would have been if he'd been sent off. Ange has said, I'm not going to take that out of his game, mate. There comes a point where you have to, and I sat here a few weeks ago and said, Saliba will never let you down. The guy got booked for the first time a few weeks ago, for the first time in a year. We can't afford to have world-class defenders, which I think he is. A World Cup winning, world-class defender. If he got sent off, that would be a 7-game ban with the potential he'd still be on 4, or he'd be back on 3 yellows. Arguably, he could miss 8-9 games in a season.
Of games, just from suspension.
It's nonsense.
It's not good.
It was a ridiculous challenge, and I don't want to make excuses or mitigate in any way. But it felt to me as though there was some needle from the Tottenham team towards Callum Wilson.
I don't care.
No, I'm not saying it's an excuse, but it felt to me. I don't think if that hadn't been Wilson, I don't think he makes that challenge. And that's not an excuse.
It might be.
That
might be so. But
so you can flip
save
it
for Matty Cash.
You can almost flip it. Oh, yeah, he may well do as well, right? But you could almost flip it and say, if that is because it's Wilson, kind of don't mind it as much because he's there for his teammate. Because Wilson is filth towards Richarlison, and what a game for Rich to get those 2 goals in. And Vicario did it as well, pulled the face at him, so it did feel as though there was a bit of needle.
But pull a face, don't break his ankle.
I'm not making excuses for him because it could have cost us very, very, very dear.
Yeah.
But I do think it was a little bit of Callum Wilson. Let's do him a little bit, and I don't.
And I'm sure it happens.
Don't mind that if you can do it a bit more subtly.
Well,
If you can do it a bit more subtly.
We can't sit here and criticise Matty Cash, and I think rightly, and then say, oh, well, it was Callum Wilson.
No, I'm sorry. We've done nothing towards Matty Cash. Callum Wilson has been vile, and the lack of intelligence that guy has, to turn around and say, you need to have a professionalism, Vicario, when he's sat there slagging off a professional footballer who... He did it after Richarlison had been talking about his mental health issues. He did it after that. I have zero respect for Callum Wilson, and I actually think there was needle towards him. And Matty Cash has no excuse to be going out and injuring our players. He's got no beef there. But I don't mind it if a player on our team has something, a bit of gripe, a bit of needle with one of theirs, and our team go out and say, right, we'll take care of
nudge
you.
him in the back.
Have they
or
had?
something.
I know they mentioned it.
Yeah, do it more subtly.
They definitely mentioned it on that podcast last season. Did they mention Richie? Have they had a go at him this season?
No, not
Because
necessarily. But it happened. This is the first time they've faced each other since.
Yeah,
then.
but he only came out with his mental health struggles this season. But this was something from back in.
I seem to remember it being round about the same sort of time.
Right. Okay.
Very much around the same sort of time.
Anyway, he could have come out, Callum Wilson, afterwards and said, "Well, I had a pop. They had a pop. Let's move on." But
he could have turned around after that podcast and said, "You know what? In retrospect, that was really poor of me." He didn't. He's got no remorse, no regret. He's an idiot. Don't care if the guy gets injured, and I'd love it if one of our players did him. And I loved what Vicario did. And I actually love what Romero did. It was just a bit stupid, and thank God he got away with it. If you're going to do it, injure the guy. Proper put him away.
And he's coming on next week.
No, Callum Wilson's filth. I wouldn't want him on this pod.
Anyway,
horrible.
He's not coming on this pod.
Yeah. You can't talk like that about other professionals.
I totally agree with you. What him and Mikel Antonio did was
disgusting.
Nonsense. Yeah, it's a nonsense. But
and then just the lack of perspective to be able to say, no, you need professionalism. Hang on, mate.
Yeah.
Look at yourself first.
Yeah. I'm not backing Callum Wilson here. I'm talking from a Tottenham perspective. We
Yeah,
can't afford to have Romero
challenge.
out for 8 games.
A ridiculous challenge. And look, that's what I'm saying. I just think if it wasn't Wilson, I don't think he'd have done it. That's not to excuse him.
Possibly
it was
so.
a too high a risk to take.
Moments later with 4 up. Can I give you a stat?
Go on.
It comes with a sort of a quiz, but the quiz will be too long, so just chuck a few names at me. Son Heung-min becomes only the 7th different player to score 10 or more goals in 8 successive Premier League seasons.
Oh, yeah, I saw this, but I didn't see any other names.
Can you name any of the other names?
Shearer, Henry, Rooney.
Kane?
Kane, correct. Kane, yes. Rooney, yes. Shearer, no. Henry, yes.
Fowler?
No.
Owen.
I'll give it to you. No, it's Lampard,
Gerrard.
Aguero,
Of course.
and actually Sadio Mane.
Oh. There you go.
Not Salah.
He hasn't been here that long,
Yeah.
has he? How many
I should know
consecutive?
the answer to this. 8 consecutive seasons. No, Salah
Might be his 8th.
would have gone away and come back, I suspect. Yeah, Salah might be joining him on that. And also the first penalty that we've taken since
You know who?
2021 that wasn't taken by Harry Kane. Dele Alli took one in 2021. Kane then scored 9 in a row. Son takes a good penalty. Took a long time to take it. Took a long time to take it.
But also leading up to this, 3-0. It's just champagne football. That some of the. I mean, you even got Decky shooting with his right foot. I'm thinking, what on earth is going on here? I thought he doesn't even use.
Played
his
well
right
in the
foot.
10. Decky.
Yeah, he's been fantastic, and he can go both ways. He's not relying on his pace as much as he is on the wing, and he's got the technical ability to really play. And he's been fantastic. And Johnson was real thorn in their side on the right hand side.
Well, we talked I think last week about having him play on his correct side, and a guy at work who goes home and away with Wales, he said Johnson hits a great shot from right to left. And he did that when he hit the post.
Oh, what a goal that would have been.
I feel he may have missed hit. Well, you're talking about the one in the second half or the first half?
Second half.
Second half would have been a great goal. I actually think he may have mishit it. The first half, when he hit one, when it skimmed the outside of the post, that because against West Ham, cutting him from the left, I don't think he hits a great shot. But from the right hand side, I think it's his best
Whereas
position.
Son cutting in from the left hits a great shot.
Right. So they were in their right positions.
Yeah. There's a little bit of an irony that the penalty came about from a bad touch from Son when he was through. So we picked Richie up. Got to say the same for Son. It was a bad touch, but it worked out. You
may not remember this. The way he went down reminded me of Gary Lineker against Norwich in about 1990.
No, that's just even for me. That was just
Too far.
slightly too random.
Jake was about probably 3 at that point.
Do you not remember it?
I don't
Were you
remember
not
it.
watching.
I
Were you
It
yourself
was on
a
the
fan?
telly. It was on the telly. So we then make a whole tranche of subs. It gave me a glimpse into a future that I don't want to be in. Skip, Lo Celso. Yeah, Lo Celso had 2 nice games, but he's not good enough. Dallied on the ball for far too long. Skip, Lo Celso, Gil. No.
My mate Højbjerg, we're going to mention him.
Oh,
We're going to
yeah,
mention
your
that
mate, I
he
forgot
cost us
about
the
him.
Anyway,
clean
this
sheet.
is good though. You want to be-
Single-handedly
what-
cost us the clean sheet.
You want,
He did.
yeah, but I think you want, Gary, come on, we want to be 4-0 up so we can make all these subs, get the guys a rest.
I want to be 4-0 up and bring on better footballers.
Yeah.
But looking ahead to January is a huge concern because Bissouma's not going to be there, Sarr's not going to be there, Son's not going to be there,
Bentancur's not going to be there.
Bentancur's not going to be there. We've got a big problem away to United, which I don't even want to start thinking about right now. But
So we won't.
But that was, you mentioned looking ahead to the future. Like those guys that came on are the guys that, in all likelihood, will face up to United.
Let's look ahead to the immediate. Should we look ahead to the immediate future?
Let's do it.
What's next? Forest,
Friday night.
Friday night.
I'm really excited about this.
Well, we're going to talk to a Forest fan first.
Hold
we're
your
not gonna say why
horses.
we're excited. We'll do that after.
Hold your horses. Bottle it in. We're going to talk to someone who knows a lot about Nottingham Forest, and we'll do that now. Delighted to be joined by Daniel Taylor, senior football writer at The Athletic, at the New York Times, and a Nottingham Forest fan. Daniel, thanks for joining us.
Nice to be here, yeah.
Let's go straight in with the latest at Forest. Steve Cooper under pressure again. We've been here before. October last year, there were reports he was in trouble. We actually ended up signing a new contract. In April this year, I think there were reports that actually had been sacked, but he survived that, kept the club up. But we're here again, he's under pressure. What's the latest and how do you see it playing out?
Yeah, it's not a great situation because basically every time, there's been other times as well that just haven't been reported as much, but every time I wouldn't say that it's like the owner kind of reverts to basically deciding whether he should keep him. His position is like always under review, and basically every time there's a bad run, we are on a bad run. There's no doubt about it. We beat Aston Villa a few weeks ago, and it's a great sort of felt like one of those kind of games where you turn the corner, but then all of a sudden you lose 5-0 at Fulham. We've lost at West Ham. Suddenly the home form's gone a little bit. So yeah, it's basically it's like a sort of he and the owner. There's a history of issues there. The club do very well keeping a lot of it under wraps, but it can't be great fun if basically your owner is always thinking of pulling the pushing the button basically on you and is talking to potential other managers, and these stories in the media. There's quite a lot of smoke to go with the fire basically, and I think at the end of last season, the owner praised himself. He basically it was a wise decision to keep him, but he also sort of like was candid enough to basically say, look, there was nobody A better, B available out there. It was kind of like almost acknowledging that well, we would have taken somebody else, but just the timing didn't work out, and there was nobody that would say yes. That was, so it's a bit tricky really, Forest, because they're not in that realm where they can go for where they can get the proper elite managers, which I think is what they own. They want like kind of a star. They love a star name. They love dealing with the kind of big clubs and signing players from the big clubs, and I think like they would really love to have what they see as a kind of an elite name to bring them publicity and a bit of associated glory and stuff, but we're not quite at that level yet where you can properly get that. There was talk behind the scenes at Forest when last April of whether they could get Pochettino and Thomas Tuchel. It's just like realistically no, so maybe in a few years, but for the time being that's not the level.
Just before I ask my question, I just want to warn against elite so-called big managers. We've had experience.
Doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
Yeah.
But actually, what I'm interested in is Steve Cooper has so much support from the Forest fans. So as a fan, removing the board situation, where are you guys in terms of level of performance this season to last? How Forest are playing? How you're doing? How you're feeling about where Forest are going under Steve Cooper?
Well, just on your first point, I mean, the level of support from the fans is off the scale. There's been a little bit recently on sort of social media, and I know you can't judge these things by social media. There has been a little bit more of a kickback, but then there's also been this. It's also just been a subject of discussion for so long that Cooper's future and just so that there has been maybe beforehand perhaps there was like 0.05% of fans that wanted him out. Now perhaps it's kind of like between 2 and 5%, which is noticeable even if it's a small sort of shift. This season, we are actually. It's a funny question because stats wise, we're actually a lot better than last season.
Okay.
Points wise, not particularly. So last season, every game it felt like we had 35% possession. This season, they've been a lot more comfortable on the ball. Last season we got absolutely battered in some way. 6-0 at Arsenal, 5-0 at. Sorry, 6-0 at Man City, 5-0 at Arsenal, various other horrible ones like 4-0 at West Ham. This season at West Ham it's 3-2. We got battered last season by Man United about three or four times, and basically this season, we're 2-0 up after 5 minutes, and then just sort of like didn't really know how to handle it. So the difference, we went to Man City, lost 2-0, but in the second half, admittedly they lost. They were down to 10 men, but second half we actually held the ball as much as they did. Just looked a lot more assured, less like kind of, I suppose, just a bit more accustomed to being in the top division, really. Whereas the previous year, Man City, it was one of the worst away performances I can remember, seeing at City. Just like it was just literally, let's get this over and done with, and move on to the next game.
But a lot of teams feel like that.
The disappointment is that the home form last season and the atmosphere has both gone down a bit. The atmosphere, it's still like, don't get me wrong, it'll be good. It'll be good on Friday. It's Friday night. It'll be good. Everyone's up for it as well. It'll be. You probably, if you go, you won't really see what I'm trying to say on Friday.
Yeah.
But there've been other games this season where the atmosphere has definitely not been as. It's just felt a bit different. I don't know if like the expectation has gone up among the fans, and they're now thinking, we're playing Burnley at home. We should be. We're not. We're quite an arrogant football club because
you've won it. You've won the lot.
Yeah. There's quite but I feel like all clubs that have had a successful past can be a bit arrogant, and we've definitely got this new expectation levels, which of course I want to see us improve and stuff. But then I think like at the start of the season, people were talking about well now we've got to be looking at like top 8. I'm like, that means that you have to get 14 more points or something ridiculous than last season. When last season we're quite lucky in a few games. Like we spawned a point really against Man City when they missed about 6 chances. Liverpool missed all sorts. Don't get me wrong, we played brilliantly in those games to be even in it. But we're playing at the absolute max, and then to think that in the Premier League you can suddenly get like 10, 14 more points, overtaking Brentford, Villa, who we see where Villa are now, and all these sort of like, which clubs do you see us getting ahead of? I would have been quite. So last season, I thought we were in that realm of we were going to finish in the bottom 5. This season, I'm kind of hoping that we're going to be sort of 12th to kind of 16th, which is an improvement, and basically that we wouldn't be getting dicked at away games, and we just look a bit more assured and established and progress. But basically there is this I do think like some people, and possibly the owners or very much the owners, see it as that we should be much higher, and that we've paid a lot of money for transfers and stuff, and you and I both know it's not that simple, is it, in this division. And we're still there's nobody at the club that's been in the Premier League before really, and I think like I still think that they're acclimatizing and learning what it's about, and sometimes it's a bit dangerous to have these assumptions that we stayed up last season, so I think Steve Cooper always knew it was going to be a hard season, whereas others their expectations have sort of
gone up,
maybe gone above what's realistic, and so the atmosphere in turn has gone down, and we just haven't been as impressive at home yet. We played Sheffield United, we're lucky to win. Last 5 minutes, we were like the better team in the first half. Then second half we went to pot. Burnley could have lost that game. Brentford we could have lost that game. Then we lost to Brighton. A lot of these games we beat Brighton at home last season. So that's been the concern.
That being said, Daniel, how do you see then Friday going? Because obviously Tottenham, well, we had a sticky patch. Sunday was obviously fantastic.
Yeah.
Our away form's actually been quite good. Maybe not the best visitors to have on a Friday night game.
No, and
You don't have to say good things just to please us, by the way.
No. I won't say good things. I grew up in an era of hating Tottenham. You ruined part of my childhood in 1991, and
In fairness, you inflicted
we'll
your own
talk about
scars
that.
on
We'll
us
talk
as
about the
well.
referee in a minute.
We'll come to the memories in a minute. We will.
Yeah. My nostalgia.
I've got scars from Forest. So,
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I think you've got a few scars from us as well. But I mean, just to be more professional for a second, I've also been in Europe with Tottenham. I've done also, I actually quite like Tottenham now. But as a youngster, I think this job knocks it out of you. To be honest, it's hard to explain. But when you're around these, the first clubs I covered were Leicester and Derby and stuff, and I've got friends at both clubs and stuff. In the end, it knocks it out. But when you're at school and you go to an FA Cup final and then you end up feeling a little bit sore because obviously we were very unhappy with some of the referee decisions that day. Roger Milford. Then you can, but I think, I've got good things to say about Tottenham. I always think Tottenham's just to try and probably upset Arsenal fans here a second, but I always think Tottenham have got, for example, the best away fans from London. I think the away fans.
Yeah, you can come again.
Yeah. But yeah, it's also it's always I like going to Tottenham. It's well, as everyone tells you, it's a great stadium and stuff. But I like going to the old stadium as well, to be honest. Anyway, I've gone off my track now. Friday night.
Friday night.
Yeah. It's a tricky one because I watched Tottenham. I watched the second half of Tottenham Man City on TV, and I was like, I haven't seen a team outpass Man City like that for a long time. So certainly since Pep's first season, and it was really impressive and quite sort of daunting knowing that my team is playing them while we're out of form. We will play if it goes by previous games where we played Liverpool and won, played Man City and drew, played Arsenal and won. Obviously, sort of won City the title by winning that game. We'll play a low block on the counter attack. Hope to be quite clinical with one of these chances, and then be really hard to break through.
I think that's the way to play against Spurs. We saw it against Wolves.
Yeah,
West Ham did it.
We did that really well last season. This season hasn't quite been the same. We did it at Chelsea away as well. Where the last 20 minutes, goal line clearances and brilliant last ditch defending and stuff. And it's just in recent weeks, there's been a few questions about whether that togetherness and it's quite a new team again. It's not the same team as last season. So it's about getting that kind of absolute sort of spirit of togetherness that was there last season, just getting that going again, and need a bit of luck in these games. We absolutely had a bit of luck against Liverpool. Arsenal, not so much, to be honest, because Arsenal didn't really create anything, but they had, they probably had 75% of the possession sort of all in our half. Man City, we had a lot of luck. Haaland probably had one of his worst days at City, just missed about three sitters in the 6-yard area. So you need a bit of luck. You need to play really well, and probably need Tottenham not to be at their absolute max.
Quick prediction.
Which,
go on.
So I mean, it could go either way. I wouldn't be totally surprised if it's 1-0 to Forest, but then I wouldn't be surprised if the class tells like it did last season. I think we actually played quite well last season, but that was before we started doing the compact. We tried to take you on at your own game, basically. We had wing backs, and we were like, "Oh, this is fun." It's like, and then basically, we created a few chances, but you had about 6 or 7 chances that, that could have ended up a bit ugly, even though we actually played quite well and made it a good game. But so I think they realised. I think it might have been actually after that game that we need to be a bit more grown up here, a bit more sensible.
Before I let you go, we will take a trip down memory lane. Like you said, 91 final. For me, Forest, like you said, Gary, sticks in my mind. You got the 91 final as a positive. The bomb scare semi-final in 92.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, I was there as well. Sticks in my mind. Forest always used to seem to win at White Hart Lane, especially if Ian Wayne was involved.
Well, he scored them 2 free kicks against us in one game. Like, unbelievable, worldy free kicks, both top bins. And I think, I've got a feeling that was in the replay to a game that I went to when I was there. And I couldn't see Ian Walker. Ian Walker was wearing a fluorescent yellow jersey, and we were there, right? And we literally couldn't see Ian Walker. And it was only, I think, when the stadium announcement and Spurs fans, can you go home? The game has been called off. We're like, I didn't even know that. And that was freezing.
It felt like every season in that period, there was like a big game between Forest and Spurs. Honestly, Spurs were like became like, just in this sort of like 5 or 6 year period where, I mean, Forest went to Wembley 6 times in 4 seasons in that same sort of era. And so it felt like we got you in semi-finals, and we knocked you out the FA Cup once in the penalty shootout.
That's
Mark Crossley.
Mark
Crossley.
Sheringham missed.
That was right in front of the Paxton
game,
Road as well, because I was in the Paxton that day.
Yeah, he ran
right
all the way
in front
down
of
the other
Paxton
end.
Road,
Yeah, I was over that game. We had a really shit away following at that game for some reason. I think like we might. What season was that? What year was that?
I've got it here, 95, 96. Yeah.
I think we just played a UEFA Cup tie the previous Wednesday or something.
Yeah,
like
Bayern
everyone
Munich.
Skinned or just like could. But we had like it was a really, so it's a great like image, like Mark Crossley like runs down the end.
Yeah.
But then it's not. It's like FA Cup. It's FA Cups. It's always in a way filled away, and it just doesn't. It just looks really unimpressive.
I'll tell you one that I remember. Steve Stone scored against us with what I maintained to this day is a 1-0 win.
I was in that. I was watching that game.
It was a cross. That was a cross, right? Because he said afterwards.
Was that the game where Bohemian did the chip?
It wasn't 1-0. It was Bohemian chip.
So it's 2-1.
Bohemian chip. Yeah.
I swear that goal eats at me even now because it was a definite cross.
Didn't he also foul someone in the build-up?
Well, we can go back and have a look.
So we've got our scars as well.
Yeah, I was in the Spurs end because I think you were having the ground redeveloped.
That's
so
right.
Like 300 and I'd been out in London the night before, and I got a ticket in the Spurs end. Possibly might have even been in the press box, and I was sort of doing a sort of busman's holiday or something. But I was there for that 4-1 where we just been promoted, and it was like it's Brian Roy, Lars Boheen, and these were all like players that kind of, well, not Brian Roy so much, but like Steve Stone, Boheen, like we knew that they were like amazing players. Like we finished third. We came up, finished third, which just doesn't happen now. And the 4-1 at Tottenham was one of the pick out games from that season.
Of course,
but everyone beat us in them days. So
But we tended to do better at White Hart Lane than you'd come to the City Ground and beat us there. It was kind of like, so I think like the one that so we remember these games, but the one that, unfortunately for me, the one that is always going to be like in history, is the cup final.
Gary Charles dived. Come on.
I get it. I was
to be fair, we just play. I mean, like it's our default setting to blame the referee and to say that Gaza should have been sent off.
He should have been. He should have been sent off for kicking Gary Parker.
We played really badly.
Right.
Yeah, the Gary Parker one was. Yeah. I mean, but we played really badly that day, and like when it went to extra time, like Clough didn't even get off his seat, and it was just a bit of a weird vibe. And like, but we didn't pick Steve Hodge. So there's all these sort of regrets, but like that don't get me wrong, it's a cup final. I'm sure it meant loads to you lads as well and everything. But I can remember, I was at school, and it was like a massive thing. We've been to 2 semi-finals. We had never won it in my lifetime before or since, but it was also the only trophy that Clough had never won.
Yeah.
So like it was just like this is kind of going to be the,
I'm very fortunate because I was at the 87 final against Coventry, and I have an irrational hatred of Coventry.
For that reason.
Ever since then, so I totally get it. And were it not for that 91 final, I would still never have seen my team lift the FA Cup.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, the Forest fans don't have a hatred of Tottenham. They have a hatred of Roger Milford. And I've seen Paul Gascoigne do an evening with Paul Gascoigne in the Nottingham Theatre Royal, and he was cheered to his seat and cheered out. So it seems like he's been forgiven.
But Roger Milford hasn't.
Yeah, it's just Roger Milford. It's a classic football fan, isn't it? Of hate of the referee always gets it, but yeah, it was a rivalry that people don't really sort of understand it. It was only like, it was a 5-year sort of thing, wasn't it? It was kind of, but it was quite intense. Basically, I kind of, I grew up with it basically. So yeah,
Daniel, brilliant to talk to you. Listen, there's been, as we've just said, some brilliant memories of Forest. I really hope Forest stay up, and I mean that sincerely. I like Forest as a club because of that history as well.
It's a proper football club.
I always say this. Good luck for Friday. I don't mean it, but good luck for the season.
Yeah.
And I do genuinely hope Forest stay up. And thanks for joining us. Thanks for talking to us.
pleasure.
Lovely little trip down memory lane. Spurs Forest really resonates with me. Daniel's right. The cup final, the bomb scare game in the League Cup semi-final, and I meant what I said. I really hope Forest out. Some of the clubs I couldn't really care less if they went down, but Forest probably because of a bit of the history.
100%. You've got there are certain clubs that are proper football clubs. I mean, do I care if Hull City are in the Premier League? And I mean this with absolute disrespect. No, I don't. I don't care if Hull City are in the Premier League. You know, teams like
Sheffield Wednesday
should be there.
Is that because of historically they were when you were a kid?
Big clubs, proper football clubs. Like you don't have a 40,000 seater stadium, Hillsborough. Like if you haven't been a proper club in the past, and Nottingham Forest. Definitely, a football club that's synonymous with the history of English football and have always played the game in the right way.
We've lost a lot of football matches.
I can't say I like Forest, but then I don't particularly like any other club, right? I only really like my club.
Yeah.
But as clubs go, Leeds, Nottingham Forest, Sheffield Wednesday, these sorts of clubs should be in the Premier League. Swansea City, don't care. Hull City, don't care. Sorry, they're just not synonymous with the history of English football. So yeah, I agree with you on that.
And hopefully we do them.
Hopefully we do them. Yeah.
And you've been bottling up some exciting news.
Yeah, we're watching the game here, aren't we?
We're going to do on Friday we're not going to do a watch along because who wants to watch us shouting at referees? We're going to
Who wants to watch Gary getting pissed?
Just see the after.
We might put a camera on him, that's for sure. We are going to.
We'll definitely get a before and after. So that's fine.
we are. We're going to do a live show before. We're going to react to the team news. Going to have some guests on hopefully and talk about that. Then people go away and watch the game, and then we're going to come back after and we're going to dissect that. Gary will have a few more beers in by then, and we'll talk about the game. So we are going to do sort of 2 live shows, one short one before the game and a roundup after. And we're looking forward to that.
We are, and we want the viewers, the listeners, to get involved as well. We've got a little text topic that we were hoping off the back of the Nottingham Forest owner throwing, or his pass being found in a bush in Fulham, in the Fulham area after he left midway through their defeat to Fulham. What is the oddest thing or worst thing you found in your front garden, Johnny?
That's just actually brought something to my mind.
Go on then.
It wasn't my front garden. I've got 2. It wasn't my front garden.
You got 2 front gardens. Oh, okay.
It's like a lot of money.
He's got one for the West Wing and
a lot of money from this podcast.
One for one wife. Oh, no.
No, we were staying at my wife's when she was my girlfriend, and I remember we woke up to a man asleep in her front garden, absolutely hammered. Maybe Gary. Maybe you will find Gary in your front garden after the Forest game. Finding a man asleep in the front garden about 3 o'clock in the morning, and also I remember a friend recently had someone just park in their drive for 2 days, which is just completely bizarre. And they just came back, took their car, and just went. So, yeah.
Gary? Or it's probably not for broadcast.
I've got nothing that I found in my front garden. I had a package of mine that was delivered to my neighbour's. I mean, literally thrown over the fence to my neighbour's garden, but nothing that I've found, which I thought was a bit random. But nothing in my front garden.
Leave your comments on the YouTube page at Echo of Glory, and we'll read them out on Friday.
What about you? You're not alone in this.
I've got a front garden. Sorry.
Okay.
Do you feel bad for asking now?
I do feel bad for asking that.
Live in a flat.
All right, let's have a quick prediction for Friday. Actually, I want to ask you if you were. We didn't do predictions on before Sunday.
Did we not?
No, during the live show, you had to go. You had to go to some
predictions. I think we did.
No, we didn't.
Pretty sure we asked. Oh, all right.
No, we didn't. We asked Shay for his prediction.
I listened back, honest.
And he just said it would be a tough game, and he was right.
He was right.
Tough game. So, what would you have said if I said to you, predict Spurs Newcastle?
Well, I'm not being wise after the event. I did text you. Was it Sunday? Saying I've got a good feeling about today.
Okay.
I fancied us to win. I'm not going to sit here and say I fancied 4-1. I thought Newcastle would be better. I mean, 2-1, 3-1.
Because I'd have said 4-1 Spurs.
Sorry?
I would have said 4-1 Spurs.
Who to?
Spurs.
Yeah, but who to? Who'd you say it to?
I know, I would have.
He said he would have done.
Yeah, I would have.
As would I.
To yourself.
I would have gone with 4-1.
Yeah.
I'd have gone with 5-1.
Well, you'd have been wrong.
You would have been wrong. I would have been right.
Prediction for Friday night on the river at the City Ground.
I'm going to say 3-1.
It's one of those games, if it had been, I agree with Daniel, the fact that it's a Friday night at 8 o'clock and it could be Steve Cooper's last game, there's a lot about this that makes it a much harder game than really it should be. So I'm not as confident, but I would be very disappointed to not pick up 3 points. So if we play like we should do, we'll win 2 or 3-0.
Yeah, I'm going to say 3-0. I think Forest are on their last legs. They're missing Awoniyi up front, which is a massive loss for them. He won't be back anytime soon. I think on the back of Sunday, I think we will possibly go on a little bit of a run now, and I think it will start or continue on Friday night.
Well, we got a good run of fixtures coming up.
Yeah.
We got Forest,
Everton
at home, then we're at Boxing
Everton
Day.
at home won't be easy.
No, but you're happy to play at home
better that
anytime.
than,
We always beat
yeah,
Everton.
absolutely. And then I think we've
Brighton
got
away. It's not
Brighton
Boxing Day.
away,
It's on the 28th. And then
that Boxing
Bournemouth
Day
at home.
fixtures.
But Bournemouth not. They were
It's a good run of fixtures, though.
Yeah,
it's
they
a good run
were
of fixtures.
superb against United on Saturday.
United are also dreadful.
It might sound odd to say, but maybe we obviously, the tough run of games that we've just had has coincided with injuries and stuff. We might have lost those games anyway. Now we've kind of got a couple of players back, easier run of fixtures. Maybe it hasn't worked out so badly for us.
Well, let's start with 3 points on Friday. And we will be back on Friday. As we said, we're going to do a couple of live shows on Friday, one before the game, and then join us as well after the game where we dissect that 3-0 win for Tottenham Hotspur. So we will see you all on Friday, and up the Spurs.